Even if I never saved another penny, I would still be able to quit my job in just 14 years. And in this video, I'll show you exactly how you could do it too. Because the truth is, most people could spend every single penny they earn, and they would still be able to retire eventually, and maybe even retire early. But before I explain how you could retire early without saving a single penny, I wanted to explain why I almost didn't make this video at all. If you're new here, my name is Charles and I'm trying to reach financial freedom before I turn 30 years old. And to do that, I'm living extremely frugally. Last year, I spent less than $20,000, even though I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So in almost all of my YouTube videos and my coaching calls, I almost always talk about spending less money, which is really important for a lot of reasons. So it feels really weird to make a video about how to retire without saving another penny. And I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression from this video. Saving money is still really freaking important. So before I explain how you could maybe retire early without saving money, I did want to explain why I usually focus on frugality. The first reason is that your spending is totally in your control, but most people spend way too much. At least in America, the average person spends almost 90% of their income every year, no matter how much money they make. There are so many ways that most people could save so much more money. So spending less is usually the easiest, fastest, and most reliable way to build wealth for the average person. And a lot of finance gurus will tell you to increase your income instead, but that's not nearly as easy as they make it sound. It almost always requires more time, more effort, and more sacrifice to make more money. But spending less money doesn't take any extra work, and you could start right now. And besides, earning more money is not nearly as powerful as a lot of people think it is. I've even explained before why spending less money is about 40 times more powerful than increasing your income. I made a whole video on that, but let me briefly explain why. For one, you have to pay taxes on every dollar you earn. So earning an extra dollar might only mean an extra 70 cents, whereas you get to keep every extra dollar that you save. But the real reason that reducing how much money you spend is super important is because it also reduces how much money you need to retire. The rule of thumb is that you need at least $1 million in savings for every $40,000 you spend. That's 25 times your annual expenses before you can retire. So when you reduce your expenses, you're saving more money and you need less money to retire. So I still think that living frugally is super important, which is why I was so hesitant to make this video. But if you really wanted to, you could probably retire without saving another penny. And if I stopped saving, I'd be able to retire before I turned 40 years old. So let me show you how. To retire without being frugal, you'll have to take advantage of an even more powerful wealth builder. And that's exactly what this strategy does. Instead of relying on the power of frugality, this strategy relies on the magic of compound interest. As a quick refresher, compound interest is the idea that money makes money. Invest your money at a 10% rate of return, and $10,000 turns into $11,000. $11,000 grows to $12,100, which grows to $13,310, and so on. And the important thing is that compound interest grows exponentially. Invest that $10,000 for 50 years, and that $10,000 would grow to over $1 million. That exponential growth makes investing far more powerful than increasing your income or reducing your expenses. And you can use this to retire even if you never saved another penny. Instead of saving more money, you could just invest what you already have. And then you could just wait. Eventually, given the growth of the stock market, you would have enough money to quit your job. And if I used this strategy, I could probably quit in about 14 years. This strategy is known as the coast fire strategy. With this strategy, you just let your current savings do the work until you're financially independent and ready to quit. And anybody can use this strategy to retire early, or at least 90% of people can. This strategy probably won't work if you're in debt, but for everyone else, it's just a matter of time. So to use this strategy yourself, you need to know 3 things. First, you need to know how much money you can currently invest. Second, you need to know what the stock market returns. Historically, that's been about 6 to 7% after adjustment for inflation. And third, you need to know how much money you need to retire. The rule of thumb is that you need about 25 times your annual expenses, but we'll come back to this. So just as an example, let's say you have $75,000 to invest and in retirement, you want to spend $60,000 per year. You would probably want about $1.5 million to retire, which would happen after about 45 years if you earned a 7% return on your money. Now, that might sound like a long time, but remember that this assumes you spend every single penny you make during that entire time period. For all 45 of those years, you could spend your entire paycheck. And obviously, you'll reach financial freedom faster if you have more money you can invest. If you already have $150,000 saved, you could retire after just 34 years. With $250,000 in savings, that would take just 27 years. With $500,000, it would take less than 17 years. So obviously, the more money you have to invest early in your career, the easier it will be to reach financial freedom, whether you continue to save money or not. And that's why it's so concerning that so many people say,
"Oh, I'll just save more money for retirement when I'm older and making more money."
But the issue is, every dollar you save today is so much more powerful than every dollar you save 10 or 20 years from now. So if more people started saving in their 20s, they could spend every penny they make for their entire career, and they would still have enough money to retire when they reach retirement age. The people who don't begin saving until later in their career will have to save so much more money to make up for that lost investment growth. So the earlier you get started, the richer you will be. And that's the exact reason that I wrote my first book, which is designed to help you save your first $100,000 as fast as possible. $100,000 is not enough money to retire, but the sooner you have a six-figure net worth, the faster your wealth will compound. And I used the frameworks and the step-by-step guide that's in that book to save my first $100,000 in less than a year and a half. And even if you already have your first $100,000, you can use the exact same principles to save your first $200,000, $500,000, or even your first million. So that book captures a lot of things that I just can't fit into a YouTube video, so check out the video description if you're interested. But anyway, even if you don't have a lot of money that you can invest, there's still another approach you can use to reach financial freedom extremely quickly. Because in the examples I just ran through, I assumed you needed to spend $60,000 per year after you retire. But you might not need to. And if you only needed to spend around $40,000 per year, then you might be able to retire with just $1 million. With $100,000 invested, that would take a little over 34 years. Again, that's all without saving a single penny. So it turns out that frugality is still important. Even if you aren't saving a single penny during your career, how much money you need to live off of still makes a huge difference on when you'll reach financial independence. The less you need to spend every year, the easier it will be to retire. So if you want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in retirement, then it might take a long time to reach financial independence, especially if you aren't saving a single penny during your career. But if you're willing to live on less, you could reach that milestone a lot faster. And this is actually a really important point, because a lot of people assume that they'll spend just as much money in retirement as they're spending right now. But that's not always the case. If you move to a cheaper area, commute less, and have more time to cook for yourself, then your costs might go down. But if you want to travel more and attend more concerts and events, then your costs might go up. The amount of money you need to retire depends on your lifestyle after retirement. So no matter how much money you spend and save right now, make sure you do the math for how you'll live after retirement. And this is absolutely key to how I'd be able to retire in just 14 years, even if I never saved another penny. I've explained in past videos how I saved my first $100,000 in less than a year and a half. And now, about a year later, I have about $200,000. So even if I never saved another penny, I could just invest my $200,000 and wait. Invested in the stock market, it would eventually be enough to quit my job. And since I only spend about $20,000 per year, I only think I would need about $500,000 to retire. So even if I never saved another penny, my $200,000 would turn into enough money to retire in just about 14 years, assuming a 7% return on investment. That means I could literally retire before I turned 40 years old, even if I stopped saving money at 25. Now again, this only works because I'm comfortable living frugally in retirement. If I needed my retirement savings to replace my entire income, I would have to invest a lot more money or invest for a lot longer. But luckily, you don't have to spend everything you earn. How much money you earn and how much money you spend can be two completely different numbers. And that's also why I don't actually recommend this strategy. Yes, it is possible to retire without saving another penny, but you'll retire so much faster if you continue to save. And even if you plan to just give all your money to charity, like I plan to eventually, I still think it's smart to reach financial freedom first. But I still wanted to make this video just to prove why it's so important to save your money while you're still early in your career instead of waiting until you're older. By saving money while you're young, you can start an investment snowball that can carry you to financial independence. And if it's possible to retire early without saving another penny, just imagine how quickly you could retire if you did keep saving, especially if you saved even more money. And the truth is, you really don't need to save that much money every day to reach financial independence. Even if all you did was save just $19 per day, you could still probably become a tax-free millionaire before you turn 60. But every year you wait could cost you over $50,000. So that's why you need to watch this video right here. Because you could become a tax-free millionaire, but you need to start today.